Hey friends, I'm Christy and you're listening to Rock the Damn Boat. If you've ever bitten your tongue to keep the peace or said yes when every part of you wanted to say no, this one's for you. We're diving into the messy, real stuff that people pleasers like me have spent years avoiding. It's time to have the hard conversations, shake things up, and learn to stand tall even when it makes waves. All right. So if you are watching today, I have some wild hair. I ordered the Lange Le Duo off of, the multiple ads that I kept seeing, and I did put it off. I tried not to be ADHD impulsive and purchase it right away. So I thought about it for a few days. I finally purchased it and I'm really struggling with it. I don't know if it's user error or if it's just not going to be the right tool for the job, but I'm curious if anyone else just loves theirs and has a great tutorial that they want to send me. Now, granted, I'm wearing headphones, which makes my curls a little crazy anyway, but yeah, I'm going through a midlife hair crisis. I don't know what to do with it. I have been saving money by not getting highlights since I am now self-employed. And yeah, it's just a different phase. Yeah, maybe getting a few extra grays, but it's good. We're good. Today's Sunday Shortie is all about what I'm going to call the 2 R's of conversation. So one of the things that we as people pleasers might do, especially leading up to difficult conversations, is to rehearse. Yesterday, I was going to meet a writers group. I started a writers group in my area and I didn't know who all was coming. I knew it might be new faces. So my 10-minute drive to the coffee shop, what did I do? Yeah, I rehearsed a little small talk and I caught myself saying, okay, well, yes, I'm a little anxious about meeting new people. Turned out there was only one woman who came and she was absolutely a joy to talk to. And then on the flip side of that is rumination. So we have rehearsing that we do leading up to a conversation. And then we have rumination that might be what lingers with us long after that conversation is over. And in doing a little bit of research for this episode, because I want to bring my own life experience to it, but I also want to help you understand what's at work in your people pleasing brain, whether that's social conditioning or clinical anxiety or anything that might be affecting how you function in the world. And you just want things to be a little more understandable, relatable, digestible. That is what I'm doing here. So, we are back with our friend, the amygdala, who is detecting danger. And anytime that we are maybe going to be around new people, or maybe you have to have a difficult conversation and you're a conflict avoider at heart, then your amygdala is, we are going into something that is scary and could be a life or death situation, even though it's not. So our amygdala is firing, our prefrontal cortex. I have problems with that phrase every time. Our prefrontal cortex is trying to make sense of it, be logical, and say, it's okay, simmer down now. But we are going to rehearse that conversation because that makes us feel a little bit better. It's self-soothing. Where we run into situations that are not aligned with a calm and regulated nervous system is when we start to really over rehearse. But here is the deal. You cannot control anybody else's response, their feelings about a situation. So the first tip is to name what you're actually trying to control. Is it someone else's reaction or their anxiety, your anxiety over rejection or abandonment? Because oftentimes that's where our fear is coming from. We're taking one situation and assuming that that is going to mean that that person is going to reject us completely. So a no could be, in our minds, no, I don't want to be your friend anymore. No, this is never going to work. When in reality, it just could be something as simple as, no, that doesn't work for me right now. Or, hey, let's look at it a different way. But in our minds, we're trying to predict that outcome. One of the best suggestions, which I know is going to be tough for people who rehearse as diligently as I sometimes do, is to go through it one time. I have been in professional settings where I've done training on difficult conversations. And yeah, it might involve role play or it might involve you rehearsing what you are going to say one time just so you know you can get it out confidently, but not then predicting what the other person is going to say. If I am going to get up on stage and speak, I'm going to practice my talk, but I am not thinking about what the audience might say or what they might think. Can you be objective going into conversations like that and just think about, okay, well, this is what I want to say. I'm comfortable with what I want to say, and I'm just going to let things unfold as they will. I am not going to predict what that other person is going to say. It can really create more anxiety once you're in that situation and things are not going exactly the way that you rehearsed. Being able to be present in that moment and for that conversation means that you have the most authentic response coming up for you. Social situations can be scary, difficult conversations at work, all of those things might require a one and done. Rehearse it one time, make sure you feel confident in expressing everything that you need to say, and then let it go. Now, once that conversation happens, we can easily enter into rumination territory. So, what is rumination? It is getting stuck in that loop around dissecting the conversation. How did it go? How is that person feeling? A lot of times, and this may be true for you, I think of what I wished I would have said hours later. And that can be really uncomfortable too, because we second guess ourselves or it fills us with self doubt. It may be that the person has certain emotions that they walked away with, especially if it was a difficult conversation. And it could be that they are disappointed or they're sad or they're upset with you over what was said. We have to learn to detach from that other person's emotions. So processing our own and understanding that I don't love the phrase sit in the discomfort, but it's true. We have to sometimes sit in that icky feeling that is our mind and body processing what happened and coming out stronger. So, one of the things that I've heard before is that neurons that fire together wire together. So, if you said what you wanted to say in that conversation, if you felt good about how that social situation went, then sit in the positive outcome of it. I made a new friend yesterday. I absolutely adored her. We swapped books. I'm excited to read her book. And I get to be excited about connecting with someone who also has self published a book. And so it was exciting talking about all of the ways that we are similar. Now, I can't think of anything in that situation that I ruminated about, like, oh, I should have said this, or oh, I wish I'd asked this. That was just a general friendly conversation. But if I were having to maybe speak my mind about something that was difficult to talk about, think about maybe conversations I've had with my husband, telling my husband that I wanted to take a year off from traditional corporate work and work to be self-employed and do my own thing creatively. I'm sure I walked away from that ruminating a little bit over how he was feeling and trying to guess at what he was thinking. That is, again, not our place to say. We are not in that person's shoes. So all we can do is process our own emotions. And if you can look at the good that came out of that conversation. Did you speak your mind? Even if it was difficult or challenging, did you say what you wanted to say? And you feel good about standing up for yourself, even if you are concerned about what the other person thought. And that's a great way to wire those neurons together, create new neural pathways around courage and bravery. Or maybe you got rejected, but you're proud of yourself that you even put your work out there. So I finished the first draft of my book this past week. I'll be polishing it, and I'm going to try to go the traditional publishing route this time, which means I'll be reaching out to agents. In all likelihood, I will get several rejections, and then they're going to get rejections by publishing houses. There's going to be a lot of rejection in my future, but you know what? I did it. I finished the book. I'm very proud of it. Regardless of how many no's I hear, there are people who value my work, and there are people who love my writing, and I'm writing for myself and I'm writing for those people, and I'm not going to be for everybody. So when it comes to rumination, rewire those positive outcomes that came from that. And just like we talked about with rehearsing and not rehearsing 1,000 times over, do not replay the conversation 1,000 times over. One of the ways that I like to get myself out of a mental loop is through a physical activity. And one of the things that I learned from my yoga teacher, Ali Van Fossen, and I have also been recommended this action by a somatic experiencing coach too. So this is definitely a common practice. Either place your hands on the desk like I am right now, which you can't see, but I have my hands flattened out on my desk. I'm simply noticing how it feels, the wood against my palm, the coolness, because it's a cool morning. The desk is cool. So I notice the temperature of the desk. You could do the same thing with the wall. And we're not pushing with force to discharge any anger or anxiety. We're actually noticing how it feels in our body. So on our hands, maybe if you're pressing on the wall, you feel a little bit of tension in your arms. When I learned it, it was not about pushing on the wall to get out anger. It was about pressing the wall to notice what's happening in my body and get out of my head. Now, one of the reasons we both rehearse and ruminate is the perceived threat. So whether or not we're rehearsing because we think this person is going to reject us, or we ruminate after because we think the person has rejected us, one of the things, again, to reinforce to your brain is that you are safe. And whether that comes from something physical or saying that out loud, wow, I survived that. Wow, I feel okay with how that went. That might be a way to reinforce to your brain that, hey, you're okay. What, you always see that meme, but did you die? And as serious of a conversation as we had around that, I think that that's one of the ways you can look at it is I was not being chased by a tiger. I did not get eaten by a tiger. Hey, I'm safe. And you can tell your amygdala, I am safe. So those are things that if you are a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser, conflict avoider, wallflower, any of those, you probably deal with rehearsal and rumination daily. First of all, you are not alone. I recently was talking to a friend, and we were talking about the rehearsing and rehearsing ad nauseum. And some days are going to be better than others. Some days you might wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or you haven't eaten well and you're tired and you're hungry and you are not as equipped to be objective about the situation. And that's okay. But when you're able to put the tools to work that you are learning to manage that rehearsal, think about it one and done. So I'm going through it once and then I'm going to let it go and I'm going to be open to whatever happens. And remember, it's about your preparation because you cannot control how the other person is going to respond. Now, in terms of rumination, how can you close that loop of worry? Can you do something physical? And whether or not it's the pressing the hands on the desk or on the wall, going outside, taking a lap around the yard, getting a little sunshine, maybe that will help close the loop. One of the suggestions that I found was to set, a 5-minute timer. Now, I think for me that would be challenging because I would stress out more about, am I done thinking about it in 5 minutes? One of the things that I do is journal. And so if I journal about the situation, it really, for me, discharges all of the emotion that goes along with it. Because as I write down on paper everything that happened and how I feel about it, it helps get that out of my head. I continue to hear about, and we'll explore this more on a later episode because this is a Sunday Shortie, but 80% of what happens in your body and your mind comes from your body. Like your physical reaction is what spurs how you think about things. Now, I'm just learning more about this and I understand somatic experiencing and all of these other things to tune in to the clues in our body. But if you're anything like me, your mind runs away with you. And so, how can we get sort of our mind under control first as we are learning how to tune into the cues our body is giving us? And with rehearsing, a lot of times it's because you have heart palpitations or sweaty palms or something that you're really nervous about. And that is what you're trying to alleviate by rehearsing the conversation. But I promise it gets easier the more that you leave a conversation and rewire the neural pathways of how did I come out stronger out of that situation? What went well in that situation? Then you will start to build more confidence and you will find that you have to rehearse less and that maybe you ruminate less after those difficult conversations, or even something as fun as an outing with new friends. You've got this. I'm Christy. This is Sunday Shortie. Keep rocking the damn boat, and thank you so much for listening to the show. You've been listening to Rock the Damn Boat, a podcast produced and recorded by Christy Hughes. You can follow, subscribe on both Apple and Spotify, and your 5-star review goes a long way. Thank you so much for your support of the show.